Now, with the vehicle already on jack stands, we're going to go ahead and put our jack underneath our rear differential. And we're going to jack this up slightly, just enough. We don't want to raise the vehicle off the jack stands, but we want to support the rear end. Using a 21mm socket, we want to go ahead and remove the nut on the lower portion of the shock. And repeat for the driver's side. On the top of the shock mount here, there is 2 bolts. Using a 13mm socket and extension with our wrench, let's go ahead and remove those bolts. With our bolts removed, let's go ahead and slide the shock off of the shaft here, the bolt. Let's go ahead and take our shock. I'm going to line this up. I'm going to drop a bolt in from the top. Feed our shock up into that, and then we'll get a nut installed. Once we have that threaded on a couple threads, we'll go ahead and install the other side. All right, we have those bolts and nuts in loosely. Let's go ahead and install the other side just the same. Okay, we can go ahead and tighten those down now. Open up our package here, take out our air line, our T's and other fittings. I'm going to take our air line and take one of our caps, push the air line through, take one of these supplied O-rings, slide that over the hose. And what we're going to do is take our T, put the air hose into it as far as it'll go. I'm going to go ahead and install our cap. And we want to just snug this down. You don't want to make that super tight, you just want to make it snug for now. The airline itself is long, so what we're going to do is we need to set up our line here where we think it's going to go, and then we're going to cut the length of it. We'll add an air line onto the other side, and then one for the air fill line, and we'll attach it underneath the vehicle. So we have our T right here, and what we're going to try and figure out is where do we want to place this item so we can properly fill the system. We also need to get a proper length from the T to the shock. All right, so we've got a rough estimate on how long we want this airline to be. I'm going to snip that line. I want to make sure that our line is open here. I'm going to go to the shock, unscrew the cap here, and install the cap, push this through. There's an O-ring already inside of our shock, so we're going to go ahead and insert our air hose. Make sure that is fed into the shock. And thread on the airline. Just hand tight. Go ahead and feed our line up over here. Now there would normally be a spare tire here, and that's fine because that'll keep this up and out of the way. Let's go ahead and hook up the line to the other air shock. We'll connect it to the other side of this T. Now on this point here, you want to be careful of your hot exhaust, so we can run our air line up and over this cross member here, and we can attach it up under that. Install our cap, install an O-ring. Go ahead and put that O-ring in and screw on that cap. So installing another cap with an O-ring here. Let's go ahead and install this into the T. Now you want to find a location that you want to hook up your Schrader valve here to go ahead and fill the unit. We're going to go ahead and run this air line straight across, and we're going to drill a hole into our bumper, and that way we can go ahead and fill and release air pressure from our shocks from the back bumper. Now I'm going to go ahead and release our jack from our differential. I'm going to go ahead and lower the vehicle so we can get access to the bumper. Now what we're going to decide to do is hook up that valve right about here. We want to make sure that it's not going to interfere with your license plate or anything else. We're going to use a punch. I'm going to go ahead and dimple this. I'm going to take our drill and let's go ahead and open this up. Now when you're working on your vehicle, and if you have that spare tire underneath the back, be careful when you're drilling here, make sure you don't put a hole in your tire. What you're going to use is your Schrader unit here, and you want to make sure you get the right size bit that you'll be able to slip this right through. We have a perfect size there. So at this point here, we're going to have a base setting here. We can go ahead and run our line over this here. We'll be able to zip tie this and connect it up top. Run our air line over, and we can put it up and over the spare tire jack port here. It's nice because this is super flexible. And let's just say it's going to come over to this point right here. Install our cap, install an O-ring, take our port, put the hose in. I'm going to go ahead and screw this onto the back. There is our air fill right here. So this would go through here on the back side of the bumper, and on the front side we would install this nut. Before we do this, we're going to keep this free. We're going to put air into this here to fill up our shocks and extend them out into position so we can go ahead and get those bolted up. So at this point here, we can go ahead and release some air pressure. You see the shocks kind of going inside a little bit. This is going to allow us to go ahead and grab these units and push them up and slide them into place. Let's go ahead and tap these on. Repeat for the other side. Install our washer and our nut. Repeat for the other side. On the bottom of the shock here, let's go ahead and tighten down the nut. Go ahead and repeat for the other side. Now on our upper nuts and bolts, you just want to tighten those down pretty tight. I'm going to go ahead and take our air valve here. We're going to feed this through the hole that we put in the bumper. On the other side, we're going to go ahead and install the nut, and we'll snug that down to hold this line in place. Let's go ahead and snug that nut down on there. It doesn't have to be super tight. You just want to hold that and lock it into place. Now at this point here, you want to go ahead and use some wire ties or whatever you have to go ahead and get this hose anchored up and into place. Once again, our spare tire is not in place here. It is going to be best if you have a spare tire to go ahead and remove it when you're going to do this job. I'm going to cut off our excess on our wire ties. We'll just complete that anchoring process throughout to hold that up and out of the way. At this point here, we're going to go ahead and lower the vehicle and air up the system. If everything checks out okay, go ahead and reinstall your spare tire. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and fill up the air shock to about 90 psi. We're going to go ahead and check the system, check for any leaks, anything like that. Minimum air pressure should be 20 pounds of pressure, never run below that. Once you're complete with the job, go ahead and install your little valve cap here. You're all set.